Until I build up a following, hopefully I will. I'm just gonna go and do like some backstory and background videos, just to kind of let you know kind of what started everything. I'm not gonna go all the way back to the beginning. I grew up on a farm with no electricity and no running water, outhouse kind of story. But I am going to go back 30-ish years to 1995. And in 1995, I don't remember the exact dates, but that general area, I moved with my paramour and our three children that were 2, 4, and 6. Girl, boy, girl. And the oldest girl was in first grade, I think. I think she was in first grade. Maybe she was in kindergarten or something like that. The 4-year-old was in Head Start, and the 2-year-old was in just home with me. That's right. um, my boyfriend at the time, he has passed on like since then. But he got a job working. We lived in At the time we lived in. Our grandmother was selling us a house in like way northern Maine, like Moose Country, Maine, and it was a nice, cute little 3-bedroom house. We did a lot of work to it. Like we put a new furnace in, we painted, carpeted, wallpapered, did a lot of work to the place. I had a lot of furniture in there, from work, and I had a lawsuit. I was thrown from a car when I was 17, right before my senior year, but I'm not even going that far back. That's not really important. That really isn't part of the issues. So, things were okay. I mean, the guy was kind of a jerk. I mean, um, yeah, he was just kind of a cocky kind of jerk. He was tall. He was handsome. He looked almost identical to Jude Law. But anyways, um, that's not really just neither here nor there. But he wasn't really that horrible or that bad to live with. I think when I first met him, I think he regularly did cocaine, but I stopped him. Like, no, I'm not part of that. I'm not gonna do any of that. Drugs just isn't part of my life, and it won't be. So you can't do drugs. I'm pretty sure he didn't do drugs uh for the like years we were together. Um I never saw really any signs of it or anything. But he got this job working for this logging company. Well, it wasn't really a company, it was a guy who did some logging. Um and it wasn't really a huge company, but it was a decent size. And he was really nice to me, and he was always trying to get me to leave. Dave as was his name, and you know, I wasn't at that point. I had 3 kids, and things weren't too bad. Like I said, he was kind of a cocky jerk, but I don't know if he knew more than I did at that point. But he had been teamed up with a partner, and this partner used to pick him up and drop him off at home, take him into the woods. They cut out trees and stuff for lumber or paper or something. There was a paper mill generally in the area, but I'm not quite sure. But anyhow, Dave started getting vicious and mean, and his like pet names for me was ASS face and DICK face and stuff like that. But he started calling me. And one time he tried to put a pillow over my face and suffocate me. And I mean, luckily, even though he was like 6'3" or 4", something like that, he wasn't able to. I was still strong. I did a lot of sports in high school, um, and a lot of physical things. So I was pretty strong back then, so I was able to fight him off. Otherwise, he might have harmed me. I'm not positive, but things started getting like bad. Like one time, he went to punch me in the face, but I was so quick, I grabbed a screwdriver and kind of planted it in his bicep to keep him from connecting with my face. Um, and then you know, one day he came home for lunch and he chased me out of the house I grabbed my baby and I ran out of the house and flagged down one of those little short afternoon buses, which happened to be my daughter's bus driver, and said, can you please call the police? Because I ran out and didn't have a phone. And so when my son used to go to Head Start, I used to um, go up there all the time, and I was the one who volunteered most. I helped her like clean up rooms and set up things and help feed the kids lunch, get that all set up. And I would sit and have lunch with my little guy, and it was really great. Me and my youngest, we would go up there quite often because I was able to have the car because he was picked up from work. So I did have like this little Cavalier. So so he chased me down with a knife, and then like later that day or the next morning, I told I had gotten really close to the head teacher at Head Start in my son's class, and she said you need to go get a restraining order, and I will take you to do that. So we went up, and I filled out back then everything was in handwriting, and I filled out this long letter and listed some other things that he had done that was concerning and dangerous. I would say this all went on 4 weeks at the top. Like I knew something was going on. And then his boss eventually told me that he was pretty sure that him and that other guy were doing heroin, and then to come and find out that's what happened. My ex took up a heroin addiction with this guy he worked with, and it brought out really bad side of him, and that's eventually I think what killed him because he didn't even make it to 40. I think he was 39 when he passed, and I think it was heart related due to long term heroin use. I After I got the restraining order, I was never back with him. But even though I had the restraining order, he would still show up. Like the house we had a really big barn, and that barn I would park my little Cavalier in it. And I was one day going up to Head Start to you know, take my littlest and um go, probably have lunch. I think help them set up for lunch, and then drive home when it was done with the little boy. And as I was approaching, I had my baby on my hip, and I had the car seat in my hand. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure why I didn't have the car seat on me, but I had her on the hip and in one hand, and he jumped me and grabbed me he was hiding inside the barn. There was no lock on it, and I didn't think he was gonna, um, I didn't think he was going to, be hiding in the barn. I mean, who would think that? And I thought he would obey the restraining order. But if you've got a heroin addiction and you're on it, and then like some things started making sense, like money would disappear, like $20 here, $50 here, some jewelry, stuff like that. So it just really started all adding up. I've never done drugs. I've never really been around people who did drugs, so it was something that I didn't quite understand. So then he jumped me. I screamed my head off, and he ran because the houses were kind of close, not too close, but close enough where a neighbor, and there were some elderly neighbors, so they were home all the time. So, but he ran, and then you know at one point some guys came knocking at the door saying he sold him a stereo. It's like I have no idea what you're talking about. And then, a little bit of time went on, and then he showed up and eventually ended up kind of kidnapping us, brought us back to Massachusetts, where I'm from. And I was at his sister's house, and I was able to get away with the kids at one point, and and then I like snuck back because I had a car there. The kids were safe, and I think maybe at my dad's house or something. They were watching the kids, and I snuck back to the parking lot at the apartment where his sister lived, and I was looking for my car, and I only had the keys, and the car wasn't there, and she yells out the window, "Oh, Dave and I had it crunched. We towed it out and had it smashed up, so I didn't have a car." Um, so I ended up staying with a friend of my sister's on Cape Cod, which was probably about 45 minutes away from Dave and his sister's house. And I thought I was safe, but no, he kept coming to the house, threatening I mean, as time went on, he, was starting to kill me, starting to kill the children, and just things got worse as he just really fell into the hole of addiction and just spiraled. But I was not going back. I was just determined not to go back. So he kept finding where I was. I go here, I go there. I don't know how he kept finding where I was because I don't have my car anymore. But uh, I don't know if it was a family member or something. But anyways, I ended up calling like a hotline, and I'm telling people if you need to get out, get out. If you're in a situation where you fear for your life, if things are getting dangerous, get out. Um, And, message me if you want to know how. Trust me when I say there are loopholes where you can just take your kids and go. Uh, if there's no, custody agreement or something like that. And even if there is, there's loopholes. There's federal codes that have loopholes when it comes to abuse situations. So, I can always lead you to those laws and always talk to a lawyer. And a lawyer can definitely tell you, hey, look, you're in fear of your life. It's got to be genuine. You're in fear of your life. So, take the kids out of state. Some people allow that. So judge, especially if there's a, history of violence and stuff like that, or certain person I know, there's, concerns about her child, and she's a mommy murderer. And people think that daddy doesn't want to leave because he's not married and doesn't have custody. But once again, that's not true. Sometimes it takes a little while for people to leave. Sometimes people are afraid. Trust me. I left my house in Maine um, because all he would let me do is like fill up two duffel bags full of clothes for me and the children. And yeah, I think he had snuck into the house, grabbed my daughter Brooke, and forced me to go to Massachusetts with him. If memory serves me. But I left a whole house full of nice furnishings and everything, and I was just allowed, a couple bags, and that's all I had for me and the children. I never went back to that house in Maine. What I ended up doing is because he kept finding me, I called the hotline, and they wanted to put me on the north end, north of Boston, near the New Hampshire border, to be way far away from because he was from Fall River. That's where he lived, which was on the south part of Massachusetts, like right next to Rhode Island. So there was, a couple hours away to get me safe. And I did end up, being put into what they would call a battered women's shelter, safe home kind of place. And then um, I was able to stay there a few months. And while you're there, they have you get on government assistance, and then they have you apply for housing vouchers. Now this is in the 90s, and the lists weren't so crazy. But there was one program because you're given this whole huge list and you just call and call and call. There was one program through a company called Emmaus, Inc. And they're a wonderful program. They're in Haverhill, Massachusetts. I cannot even like sing their praises enough. I can't because they are. If you want to, you know, start life over and you and your children safe, in a safe manner, then do it. Just it's hard. I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy. Now I had three children, two, 4, and 6. Soon to be turning 3, 5, and 7. Um, but it's hard, but you have to do it because we don't know what could happen if you stay in that situation. So I got into Emmaus. I think I was in a battered women shelter for like 3 months, and basically it was just this huge, massive house that they broke into bedrooms, and the mothers slept with their children. And if you had like 3 children, you got like a bedroom of 4 twin size beds, or twin bed with baby beds, or something like that, bunk bed, something like that. And then I was accepted into the Emmaus program, but they will put you in an apartment, and they have this really nice old building that was built, and I want to say like 1912, around the Titanic age. It was a really nice building. But my apartment wasn't ready, so they put me into a homeless shelter, which wasn't meant necessarily for battered women. It was just for a lot of people that were kind of in between, you know, uh, full-time housing. It was temporary housing. And when I first got there, my children had behavioral issues, especially my son. But they just got worse as we became like bouncing around place to place. It just kind of really messed him up. And then the yelling and screaming that, came from Dave, and the name calling just kind of put the kids in a worse behavioral pattern. And also, that Amaze program puts you in like a year school and internship. They put you in an apartment, and then they set you up with daycare. And the daycare had a bus because I didn't have a car, but I still had to walk like a mile each way with the kids for the bus. And yes, my kids were on leashes because I had to walk there. I would walk there with the kids, and then I would take a cab home with the groceries because it was like 2 mile round trip, and just the kids couldn't do that. I had to go groceries, but I couldn't afford cab there and back. It's just I didn't have the money. I was going to school. I was on government assistance. They don't give you much. And I was fortunate because the apartment that they put us in was a 3 bedroom apartment, but it was on the fourth floor, and the laundry was in the basement. I can't tell you what a pain that was. And my son, he always complained about walking upstairs, walking to the grocery store, or anything like that. But you love your children enough to do sometimes the hard things. I eventually had to walk back and forth to work, walk to the schools, walk, because my apartment was in one school district in the homeless shelter. While I was waiting for it to get ready, I had to put my daughter in the school that would have been for that apartment. So I ended up having to walk a couple miles each way. My youngest in a stroller, and my 4, 5 slash almost 5-year-old in a, holding on to the stroller, and he just complained the whole time. I'm like, my feet hurt, my feet hurt. But we got through it, and we saved up. Um, so I finally got into the apartment. I got into the school. The kids were going to daycare, which had transportation, those little school buses. I put them on the bus. I'd walk to school, walk home, get home, get the kids off the daycare bus. I went to school somewhat about a year. I was top of the class, top three maybe out of 50 students. I always worked hard at schoolwork. I always wanted to learn. And and then let's see. Eventually, I got one of the best internships, which was at the Chamber of Commerce, and I did a lot of stuff for them, a lot of mailings. I helped them with their little like monthly meet and greets, and I ended up meeting like my first real boss out of school and worked for him for a little bit. But while I was in before I got into the apartment, while I was in the homeless shelter, my kids were a little off the wall. And there was a woman there that ran it, and oh, she did not like me from the beginning. She did not. When I got to her desk one day in her office and just sat there and I like cried, and I'm like this isn't easy for me, and I just want what's best for my kids, and I just want to go on with my life and make the best life for them. And ever since then, we've had a close relationship. And she, like, I'm going to say, Emmaus are all of the people that are affiliated with them, they're like angels. Like, when I finally got into my apartment, I had nothing. Like I said, I had two duffel bags of clothes. But I got into my apartment and they set up for people to carry up to my fourth floor appointment beds, furniture, couches, dinette set, everything, table lamps, side tables, TVs, everything. And it's just like living angels. There are living angels among us. Trust me when I say that. And this is like 30 years ago. This is like 1995, 1996. And it still brings tears to my eyes from the kindness of strangers. It really, really does. I think I'm going to stop off here with my new life in Haverhill. I wasn't used to the area at all because I was a Cape Cod girl. I was a South Shore Beach girl. I grew up on Brant Rock Beach, and so this closer to the mountains, closer to New Hampshire, was very new to me. And my children, also, suffered and struggled to make their way. So I will go on my next background part two. I'll kind of go into the 3 years we lived in the Emmaus housing, and then go on from there. But yeah, if you have until I build up build up my channel, which I hope I do because I want to help people. But to build up my channel, my son told me to get a streaming deck. So my birthday was the other day, and I got some Amazon gift cards and some cash for my family. So I'm gonna buy a streaming deck. I'm just trying to figure out which one I want, and once that, I'll start figuring out how to do really nice thumbnails and be able to put up documents because I said I'm bringing receipts for sure. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. For those who did, if you know somebody who is having problems with mental illness with their children, educational plans with their children, getting out of an abusive relationship with their children, or just not, or just by themselves, or people are just trying to go to school, go to college, try to fight DCF. Tell people to come follow me. Ask me questions. I will tell you what I know, and if I don't know, I'll get the information, or I'll show you where to go to get the information. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for my backstory part two, which will take us from like 96 to maybe 99 or something like that. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.